They're not
Throwing
coming.
curveballs.
Welcome to I Hope You Suffer.
What?
Bummer.
They're not coming anymore.
That's good urethral control.
We're watching a movie about edging.
Somehow this is worse than the original thing.
This is episode 153 of I Hope You Suffer. My name is Nathan.
I'm Kit.
I am Katie.
This is take 2. We watched 2007's 30 Days of Night. Katie, repeat all that stuff you said before.
I don't even remember.
This was a movie that we picked because it finally came up on streaming, and I think this is one of the ones that we always talked about, like kind of like with Near Dark.
Yeah.
Where it was like anytime vampire movies came up, it was just like a vampire movie that like you'd wanted to see but was never up streaming or something like that. So
essentially, yeah.
It finally came up on Prime, and we needed to kind of pick a movie sort of last minute-ish. So this was kind of like a good time to pick this movie and have it come up streaming, and also to do something that wasn't Inhumane Witch and Attack of the Killer Donuts.
Oh God.
Which
I mean,
feels
honestly, yeah.
so long ago.
It really does.
So
Y'all, the cover for this, the red and black cover,
yes,
it hits so different when you think the vampire's edging.
Stop.
I mean,
I can't. I can't stop thinking about it. Danny Huston just standing there like, no God.
oh, just denying God that sweet, sweet cum. All right, Katie, what did you This went downhill quickly. Katie, what did you think of 30 Days of Night?
Okay. As I was saying before, I liked this movie, but I had a lot of distractions. I had to keep pausing it to deal with things. So it didn't blow my mind. I feel like I would have liked it even, like, I by no means did not enjoy it, but like I feel like a large part of this movie is like the like interactions between the characters, and I had to keep like pausing between them, like talking and like anything important pretty much. So I had a hard time. I feel like I would have liked it even more if I was able to just kind of like sit and just like experience the movie, which is unfortunately not what happened. So I'm definitely going to rewatch it, but overall I did like it. And I think I don't even remember. Part of what I liked about it is that like this movie feels a lot more like rather than just like if we're gonna say something, take something like Near Dark or like John Carpenter's Vampires or something like that, where it's just like a group of people either hunting and or running from vampires anywhere. This one's feels more like a post-apocalyptic kind of thing, because they're, pretty much just stranded in this town and there's nobody coming for them. They can't call for help, and it's kind of like they just have to do what they can in this like really like secluded space. And so like that aspect of it I thought I really liked, and it was a little bit different. I think where this movie sort of fails for me is just because it's older, and like overall the effects and stuff were not super bad, but there were some moments where I was like, ugh, this does not look great, and that kind of took away from it for me. But yeah, I mean, kind of a different take on the vampires too. So like overall, like I felt like it was, I don't know what I thought this movie was before. Like I don't know if I thought people didn't like it or whatever, but I mean it's totally watchable.
I think it's got like, because it's got like a 3.1 average on Letterboxd. I think it's just a movie people are like ambivalent-ish about.
Well,
But
I'm wondering if like part of the bad reception is just because it was based off of that not the graphic novel, and maybe it's like a lot of people who like it. I don't know how
I have the
popular.
graphic novel. I haven't read it in a while, and it's not much different really. I can't remember if the ending is the same. I think it is, but like it's not much different from what I remember. I think it's just because it's 2007 and people like
Yeah.
hate that decade of horror movies with, sort of good reason, but not. There's a lot of good shit still in that time period. Just like every decade, like the 80s, that people fucking act like every horror movie that came out in the 80s is great, but there's a lot of shit in that decade. So
Yeah, and I feel like I'm glad that we like you said, I had been trying to watch this for a while and it was just like a little elusive, but I was glad we finally got to watch it because again, like I've said this many times, like I saw a lot of shit that came out in like the early 2000s or whatever and didn't like most of it, but I am finding on like when I'm coming back to them, they're not as bad as I thought, and this was one that I just like never saw. So the fact that I'm seeing it for the first time and I was like, all right, not bad. Like I think that sort of says something about, I don't know, maybe giving these movies another chance.
yeah, like how everybody's coming around to House of Wax finally.
I haven't seen that either.
It's great.
I don't
It's
think.
perfect.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
It's very stupid, but worth
No,
watching.
that's why it's perfect.
Kit, what did you think of 30 Days a Night?
It's fine. I'm one of those ambivalent people. Like, there's really cool moments in it. Danny Huston is great. I like how all the vampires are like seemingly feral animals. The cool take on them, and I really like the concept. But I don't know. I feel like it could have been trimmed down probably.
I agree.
20 minutes.
I don't think it needs to be 2 hours long, but I also like. I don't know. I really like this movie, but I think a lot of it is like I like the comic book, and I also like Caitlin and I were having a conversation. I was watching Near Dark, and she kind of came out in the middle of it and had never seen it, and we were just kind of like having this conversation about like vampire movies and how it feels like a lot of the ones that kind of become like cult favorites but maybe don't totally do well box office wise, shit like that, like are always the ones that do this, like kind of add something to like the mythos of vampires. So like just like I guess this doesn't necessarily add, maybe that's not the right word, but like I love the idea of like the vampires in a like someone finally doing vampires in an area where there's just like no sun for 30 days. Kind of like how like Near Dark did the thing where they like spray paint the windows of their van and sleep in that van, or like John Carpenter's Vampires, the idea of like them digging themselves into the ground to get away from the sun. Like I like shit like that kind of does something fun with the already established like myth of vampires. So I really kind of like enjoy that aspect of this movie, and kind of like Kit said, like I like that they're more animals than like regular vampires.
I feel like
what's
for
the guy's
some
name
reason.
Go ahead. I gotta look up the guy's name who was the comic book writer of this.
Okay. I feel like for some reason, a lot of the movies that came out where vampires are more like creatures don't do as well because people just really love a sexy vampire guy.
They're horny.
Or
They're horny
person.
for vampires.
Right, which like believe me, I get it. But I feel like once you like if you think back about like a lot of the vampire stuff that kind of like forms the foundation of what people like about the creatures or whatever, this is like a pretty drastic turn that I feel like maybe people just like didn't want to accept how different they are. And I feel like, I mean, you can say that about like zombies too, right? There's like a lot of people who are really divided on whether you like the slow lumbering zombies or you like really fast zombies. And if you are really one-sided, I feel like it's hard for those people to be open to doing something like this, where like not only are they creatures, they're really kind of unique looking as far as vampires go. Like they kind of look almost like sharks, like they're kind of aquatic-ish.
That one guy's got a real lumpy head, which
Yeah.
I like.
It's weird because I feel like everybody but Danny Huston has a look to him, but he just kind of looks like
Yeah.
the gray or blue
Yeah, he's just a
version of
guy.
himself. But like the actress that plays, it's not like, I don't know if it's ever established, but it almost feels like his girlfriend in it has
that
very
was my-
like shark kind of face.
Yeah. And so does that like Dave Bautista looking guy too. I'm wondering if it's just because he's just maybe I like obviously he is the head vampire guy, so I wonder if he just like looks more normal because it's like he's like the origin of it, and so then when he's passing it on, it's like, I don't know, mutating them. The effect of it was really cool though, because like it doesn't look like they did anything, like especially the, you know, spoilers of course, the little girl, like it didn't look like they did anything to actually change the way they look, but they don't look like people. So I was like, I couldn't figure out like how they did it.
It's a very small thing of, I think, just skin color and then like the teeth and eyes. Like, just like darkening the eyes, lightening the skin color, and then they just have like, it's like these vampires, instead of just having like the two fangs, like all of their teeth are like,
razor sharp.
yeah, like to a point.
And then they're all like, "Ah!"
So I listened to Steve Niles, the guy who wrote the comic, was on Postmortem, and he was talking about, they talked about this movie for like a long time and how he was like pretty adverse to the idea of them making this movie. And the thing that finally sold him is, I think he said he talked to David Slade, who directed it, and they were discussing like how the vampires would communicate, and he was just like, oh, I want them to just basically just not have like they'll have a language, but it's not like a real language, and most of the time they're just screeching. And he was just like, all right, I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, the very first time it happened, I was like, ugh. Like it was very like it's like off-putting that they're just like screeching, like literally screeching, like again, kind of like, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I like this movie. Glad you finally got to watch it, because
yeah, for sure.
I don't think it's essential, and I think part of the reason a lot of people have negative ass feelings for it is like it did come out during, and it kind of has the same look, I feel, as a lot of like the Platinum Dune remakes. Like a lot of the movies at this time look somehow too polished, but also shitty looking.
Yeah.
Like my biggest gripe with this movie is that they did the thing that all of the movies around this time had, that during kind of action scenes, it's all that fucking handheld shaky cam shit where you can't even see what's happening. And I know a lot of that has to do with kind of being able to make the movie gory without getting like an X rating from the MPAA, but like, I don't know, like I hate the way that looks. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of like that part kind of takes away from it a little bit for me, but otherwise, like, I enjoy it. I feel you could cut at least a solid 15 minutes out of it, but
yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of like, you know, this is a town full of people, and it's a lot of like following people that keep splitting up and then reconvening and then splitting up and then reconvening, and it's just kind of a lot.
I think this is something that if it would have been 5 years to a decade later, this would have been a mini series, like a 1-season show, kind of like, because with like the popularity of like The Walking Dead, like this could have been a cool, like, 30 episode series of something where it's literally like every day, maybe not 30, but even like cut it in half, so it's just like 15 episodes, but like then you have time to kind of expand on the idea of the 30 days in this town. but it feels like it needs to either be extra long or like cut down and have like more of the action start taking place than like the solid 30 minutes of kind of exposition before the vampires show up.
Yeah, I mean, I did kind of like the idea of, I think I would like the idea of like all of the stuff in the beginning more if like it wasn't made very clear that this was a vampire movie. So like if you didn't know, I feel like all of that stuff leading up would be cool because then you have this kind of like mystery of like, okay, well, what is going on? All these things are happening that Josh Hartnett refers to as vandalism. Like someone
Goddamn vandals.
murdering a bunch of dogs for some reason. But whatever. I agree with you because I feel like the first time I wrote down what day it was, I feel like it was like day 15, and I was like, wait, what? Did I miss something? And I also like my gripe with it story wise is like I don't understand how the people were hiding for like weeks and the vampires just like didn't find them. Like
It like, yeah, I feel like that's kind of gets, I don't know, let's get into it. We
Okay.
can fucking just
All
kind
right.
of like figure that shit out.
All right.
We get to it.
So we are starting out really strong with my boy Ben Foster. I don't know how he is in his personal life, but he used to be one of my favorites because he was on a show called Flash Forward. I don't know if anyone remembers that show. I'm pretty sure it was on Disney, but Jules State was in it also from Firefly. And I was obsessed with that show. I loved it so much. So I was excited to see him first, even though he is not looking great. He's looking pretty gnarly.
His teeth look pretty good.
And yeah, very gross. And I also, the first time he talked, I was like, I cannot wait to hear Kit's impersonation of the way that this guy talks, because I could not figure out what he was supposed to be like.
I already have completely forgotten.
Okay, I think I wrote down some lines. I'll try and do it. So basically, it starts off with him. He is in the great snowy caps of what we find out is Alaska. And he is looking out at a big ship, and then he walks into town. He looks pretty nasty.
Life.
Yeah.
Looking at ships, walking to towns.
Seems
Must be
fun.
nice.
I mean, Alaska seems pretty cold, though, so I'm not sure. Like, I like the cold, but I don't know about it. Then we get some text on the screen that says, last day of sun, which is pretty scary. So we are introduced to Sheriff Josh.
What is
It's starting already. I was trying to say Josh Hartnett, but it came out Jersh.
She got overtaken by Ben Foster's accent.
And his name in this movie is Eben, E-B-E-N, Eben.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
Sure.
And...
Ebenezer is his name.
And his sheriff partner, who is Manu Bennett, who played Slade on the Arrow TV show.
Not Slade Craven.
No.
Wait.
That's disappointing.
Who is it?
He plays Slade Wilson on Arrow.
Yeah, which guy is it?
It's Billy.
Oh,
the
weird.
like other sheriff that disappears for half of the movie.
I feel like I just maybe either didn't recognize him or like forgot because it's been like so long since I've seen an episode of Arrow.
Oh man, I slugged through all of it, and then I got to like the last season, and I was like, I cannot do this anymore. And then I just skipped the whole season and watched just the last episode. Oh,
he's in The Marine with John Cena.
Oh, wow.
Hell yeah.
All right. Anyway.
So he also was in Death Race 2050 as Frankenstein. Anyways, I like him. I didn't know who was in this movie except for Josh Hartnett. So I was just very surprised to see him there. Anyways, so Eben and Billy are the sheriffs of this town. Okay? They find a pile of burned satellite phones, and they're just like, "What's going on?" And I'm also like, "What's going on?"
No satellites.
No,
How are they
yeah,
supposed to play Snake on their fucking brick phone now?
they can't. It's dead. They
Rude.
got no video games now.
Fuckers.
So they're kind of like, I don't know what's going on. Maybe it was a prank. And then Eben's like, if it was a prank, they would have left a note that says, fuck you to their parents or something. And I was like, that's not a thing. That doesn't happen.
It's a weird prank.
I'm going to leave a. Right. It's like out in a snowbank. Like, how are their parents going to find a pile? Anyways.
Gotcha,
So-
fuck you.
Now your high score of Snake is gone. So yeah, that's the first incident. Then they are kind of, just watching the last sunset, and Eben cries. And also, we find out he has asthma. Then we get introduced to Melissa George,
It
who
seems
plays
like
Stella.
not great to stay in a city for 30 days that's just like shut down when you have some sort of health thing like that.
Yeah.
Especially in like the frigid cold, where it's like already harder to breathe, I feel like. But you know what? I don't know.
Doesn't seem like he enjoys life very much either way, so.
No, it doesn't really. Yeah. Okay, so Melissa George plays Stella, and we find out that she is married to Eben, but they're separated, and she's just in town because she is doing some work. She is a fire marshal. I have no idea what fire marshals do, I guess. I'm not really sure. She's like traveling from town to town or whatever.
You marshal the fire.
Yeah.
Well, she
Pretty
didn't do a very good job
self-explanatory.
at the end of marshaling the fires, if you ask me.
Well, jobs don't mean anything when the vampires show up.
I mean,
that's true.
what if her job is to marshal the fires into burning places down?
Yeah.
Then she did a
Well,
very good job.
Then she did a
Yeah.
good job, yeah.
She
then
deserves
we
a raise.
see- We see a bunch of people basically getting ready to leave town. So if you haven't picked it up by now, this is essentially a place in Alaska where there are 30 days of night. So the sun sets and does not come up for a month. And a bunch of people, I guess, stay behind in town, and then a bunch of people board up their houses and leave for a month. And I'm like, why?
I don't know, sounds like
Also, it
heaven
didn't
to
make
me.
any sense to me. Like, I know. Well, also, I didn't understand, like, planes fly at night. Why are they closing down the airport and stuff?
I
Anyway,
just assume it's because everybody leaves.
yeah, I guess. And then I was really mad about this. Someone just murders a bunch of huskies. Like, why? I mean, obviously I understand why, but I don't need to see it, okay? There was a lot of them, and they were really cute beforehand. So then basically Stella is like driving. She's trying to get to the airport so she can leave before she gets stranded there. But somebody is driving some kind of big, scary looking tractor thing and like slides into the road and hits her car. So now she can't drive it anymore. She calls Eben and is like, hey, I need to ride to the airport. And he's kind of mad because like she was in town and wasn't going to say anything except now that she needs a favor, right? And she's like, well, we can talk in the car. And he's just like, no, I'm sending Billy. So Billy goes to get her. And Eben goes to investigate the dog murders. Again, really hate it. Billy like stalls and doesn't pick her up till it's like already nighttime, and she's like mad about it. She misses the plane and she's now stuck there for a month. And she's, not happy about it. Then we also
Don't blame her. That sounds fucking awful.
No, especially because
Even without vampires.
Yeah, also like she doesn't live there anymore, and also she's like on the job, and now she's just like stranded there.
I just like when she's like, I have plants to get back home to.
Well, no, you don't.
Same.
Um, we also get the scene of Eben talking to somebody whose helicopter was destroyed mysteriously, and he's really mad about it. So now Eben is kind of like, getting the idea that some shady shit's going on all at once. Because you get the idea that, like, not really a lot of bad stuff happens here because it's like a pretty small town. And yeah. Then we see this guy who is at some kind of service station. He hears shrieking outside
Not
and
good.
does what I would not do and immediately goes out to investigate. Um, Normally not a fan of yelling. Shrieking, I really don't think so. What could that?
All right.
Nothing
Well,
good.
I'm not gonna shriek for help if you're around.
You better not.
Noted.
If you are in trouble and you stand
Whisper.
outside my window and go, "Ah!" I'm not coming. Like, it's not going to happen.
It's just a
So-
reflex, Katie, okay? I'm being murdered
Well-
by vampires.
We'll make a safety phrase. Scream like
Start yelling like
ice
couch.
cream sundae. Ice cream sundae.
Couch!
I can't tell if
I'll be
that
like,
was that or
okay.
just a screech, so I'm just gonna pretend it was a
Like-
screech.
Play it safe.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Hello, police. Someone shrieking couch outside my window. Could you please assist? No, don't. Okay. Guy goes outside to investigate shrieking, and he is surrounded by vampires and eaten, essentially. Also, these vampires are like not only mean, but they're kind of dicks because they do this thing where they like stand around people and then take turns like slapping them, and I was like, that's like insult to injury, if you ask me.
Goddamn
okay.
bunch of Three Stooges out here.
Okay, so Ben he's just called the stranger in this movie, so I called him Ben. He is at the diner.
Being
and
strange.
Ben Foster Strange. He's like trying to order food from the diner, and the lady that works there, Lucy, is essentially just like, oh, like, he's like, whiskey? Rum? I don't know. His voice, his accent is just something to behold in this. He's like trying to order alcohol, and Lucy's like, no, sorry, like, this is also a dry month. And I was like, Lucy, okay, this sounds terrible now, if you ask me. She's essentially just like, people can't handle it being dark 24/7, and they definitely don't need alcohol. And I was like, maybe I would have left you at this point. Then he also orders raw hamburger.
Ah, yeah. The Alaskan
and
delicacy that is raw meat.
raw meat. And she's essentially just like, you can only get meat two ways here: frozen or burnt.
Eat it frozen.
Why not? You can it's like a lollipop or popsicle, whatever.
Yeah.
Cold lollipop. or
Blood.
popsicle. He's basically getting kind of rowdy, and Eben comes in and is just like, calm down, bro. Like, let's go outside to talk. And he's kind of like, no, I don't want to. Then Stella shows up, and she's got a gun on him. So, yeah, they arrest him and take him to the station. Then we see a group of workers. There's like two guys and a girl. They get
And a
attacked.
pizza place.
Hasn't been enough Ryan Reynolds content from us lately, so
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Work them into every episode.
Yeah. Wow. Can't wait till we talk about that because I have some things to say about it. Okay, so they're attacked. This is pretty cool because like the vampires at this point are kind of just like darting in and out, and they grab a guy, and the other two are like, oh, what's going on? And then they just like drop him from the roof, and they're like, oh no. It looks pretty good. I thought this scene was pretty cool. The girl runs away and escapes, and the two guys are killed. Eben's like trying to interrogate Ben and is like, what's going on? Like, who are these people or whatever?
Is this
Oh wait,
when he
maybe
like?
doesn't.
Yeah, I was like, there's the
I
scene
don't
when he
think.
comes in like super mad and like, no, yeah, because that's not happened yet. Because I think he gets shot and he like
This is
handcuffs him.
Yeah, this is just when he's kind of like he suspects that the stranger Ben is the one that's like, murdered a bunch of dogs
Yeah,
and like done a bunch
vandalism.
of other shit vandalism. And he's kind of like he kind of says as much, I think, at this point. And then you also find out that Eben's grandmother Helen works at the station along with his brother Jake. And Eben's mad that they have weed. Uh okay, grandpa.
Yeah, what are you supposed to do for 30
And
days?
Yeah.
there's no booze, right? But essentially, Jake is just kind of like, oh, well, grandma's growing it because it helps with her cancer, which is sad. But this is when they discover that the phone lines and the internet are down. And
Damn.
Ben is essentially like, this is when he says something like, this time they're gonna take me with them. This is when he's like, they're coming, haha, blah. He's like being crazy. The power goes out, and so
Where
that's not great.
Where do you think they got their memes at if their phones and internet were down? Do you think they had to hand draw them?
Probably.
Yeah, in the snow with their pee.
With their pee.
Yeah. Seems like I would probably not stay.
No snake, no memes. Like no booze. What are they doing here for 30 days at night? So
One weed. That's what.
We told you at the beginning, edging the entire time. I don't know if they got no phones and
It's a lot of
internet.
concentration.
That is old school style with just a magazine. All right.
All mental.
Okay, so Eben is gonna go check out the cell towers, and he rolls up, and he sees a bunch of blood, and then there's just a guy's head on a stick, which is terrifying.
Always fun to come across.
Yeah, I don't. So he immediately freaks out, drives back through town, and is like announcing to everyone that they need to go home, lock all their doors, load their guns, like be where it's safe. If you don't have a generator, then the people who don't have generators for their house need to get together at the diner or whatever. Then we get a scene of the helicopter guy from earlier, I think. I wasn't sure if I was getting him mixed up with someone else, but it doesn't really matter. He's just at home, being sad about his helicopter. And his wife is just kind of like, hey, will you come in here and eat dinner or whatever? And then someone just comes crashing through their kitchen window. And then the guy steals his wife. And so helicopter guy runs outside and is like, wife, what's happening? And I don't know. Essentially, like, the vampire is like stealing her, but he's like going underneath the houses. And so the helicopter guy is trying to like grab at her arms to like pull her, but she keeps getting yanked away, and he gets kind of hurt a little bit.
So I don't know why stealing a wife made me think of this, but now what I really want is the next Purge movie to just be in Barrow, Alaska.
Why not?
Like, they gotta do something. They just did basically the Wild West, so fuck it. Go the exact opposite. You're just fucking in 30 Days a Night in Alaska. It's just 30 days of Purge.
I thought you were gonna say the next Purge movie is for 24 hours. They allow you to like steal wives.
Oh, that's another good.
Well, can't you
I'd
do
watch that.
anything during the purge?
I don't know if you can
Like-
steal wives. It seems against the law still.
They said everything is legal,
Yeah.
so who knows?
Like,
Wife law
you
is
can
a
murder
totally
somebody,
different
but
law.
you can't steal a wife.
Yeah. Some things are sacred.
What if
Katie.
you? Oh well. What if you could like? What
Marriage.
if you like stole someone's
Sacred
wife,
bond.
and then they have to like stay like they're your wife now?
Yeah.
When everything goes back to normal.
Wives are property, as we all know.
It's
I mean,
just wife swap.
Yeah.
The show, the next Purge.
I'm in.
For 24 hours, you just run out and you can swap. You can just steal someone else's wife.
But it's only celebrities, so it's celebrity wife swap. So it's like the Flavor Flav and D. Snyder episode and shit, where it's just like they just run out and steal fucking another celebrity's wife.
I feel like most of them would be like, "Nah, I'm all right."
I'd be like, you could just take them.
Please, yeah. There's somebody out there that's like, "Please, God, take my wife." Okay. Well, I have a
NBC,
feeling
get at us. Celebrity wife swap, :purge.
Yeah. Celebrity wife purge.
Yeah.
Swap.
Celebrity wife purge, I think, is something else. Okay.
That's what happened during these 30 days that they're... Anyway.
Okay. So Eben comes back to the station and encounters Ben. Ben, there's like this thing between like Jake and Ben, where Ben's just being a creeper and Jake throws something at him and he's like, "Oh, thanks for throwing this plastic at me. I can use it to pick my cell." And so like an idiot, Jake goes over there to get it. Ben grabs him.
I didn't think you were gonna say cell. I don't know what he was gonna pick, but cell was not it in my mind.
Whatever it was, wasn't gonna be good.
Well,
it was ass or nose. Yeah. One of those two.
Just picking his nose with a piece of plastic.
Just digging deep into his ass with some plastic.
Ew. Why is this happening today?
It's because we haven't recorded in like 3 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. He's choking Jake out. Eben comes in and shoots him in the arm, and Ben is not happy about it.
Yeah, it didn't seem fun.
I don't remember what he called him, but maybe he called him a fucker or something. And so then Eben handcuffs him to the cell and is like, "What is going on? Like, what is happening? Who are these people?" And he won't say anything. So then I kind of missed what was happening here. Eben and Stella leave the station to go somewhere. ? I'm not really sure where, because they don't go very far, because essentially they're driving and somebody like runs up onto the Jeep and like jumps up there and there's like wailing on it, and then Stella slams on the brakes and the guy like flies off and they speed off.
Yeah, I don't remember where they say they're going in this scene.
They're going all over the place. There's vampires running amok and they're like going to the store, you know what I mean? Like they're doing anything. So like I know that there was a whole thing with like the phones being down, so they like couldn't get in contact with Billy, so like maybe they were going to look for Billy, I don't know. But as they're driving back to the station, there's like cars on fire, there's like shit going on. They hear over the radio that Helen, Eben's grandmother, is calling for help, so they immediately go back to the station and all they find is just like blood everywhere. Ben is still there, being depressed because the vampires like didn't take him with them.
Sad life.
Yeah,
not being the chosen one.
Yeah, pretty bad.
If you've ever seen a vampire movie, you would know they're gonna like double cross you. Like,
yeah,
honestly,
he should have known.
Yeah, you would think, but he's basically just like, yeah, they didn't take me. And then he asks Eben to kill him, but he's like, no.
Just leave him in the cell for 30 days. It's fine.
Like, essentially, because they're like, he's got a gunshot wound, and Eben's just kind of like, well, whatever, we'll get to it when we get to it.
Sounds like a cop.
I mean, so then we just get like a scene with the vampires where like all of the vampires just are like screeching, and the head vampire, whose name I kept writing down as Barlow, and it's Marlowe. Same difference,
Marlowe
actually, though. Yeah.
That's his first and last name. Marlowe Barlow.
Right.
Dr. Marlowe Barlow.
Yeah.
PhD.
He earned that vampire doctor.
You gotta respect that time he put in at school.
It's not cheap. Even with vampire wealth, you know. Um, he kind of goes between this like made up language, which I read in the trivia that essentially they like created a language for them to speak, which I think is pretty cool. But it's like between this fake language and then so it's subtitled. Um, but he's essentially telling all of his like group of vampires to make sure that they decapitate everybody that they feed from because they don't want to turn anybody and like add to their group.
Yeah, they're real
Which is
bad at
pretty,
this then.
yeah,
Cause
pretty interesting like twist though, because normally I feel like they don't really care. It seems pretty easy to like turn into a vampire in this though. But he's like, yeah, we don't want to do that. Um so Eben makes it back to the diner where the survivors so far are kind of just like talking about what's happening. They don't really know. He reunites with Jake, and this is where we find out that Grandma Helen is dead. R.I.P. to a real one. This is basically just a long shot of like the vampires killing people. There's like people running around everywhere, getting thrown off of roofs and getting shot, and it's kind of a cool scene because it's just like absolute chaos. The vampires are screeching and shit. There's people yelling, but then there's like this like aerial shot of the whole thing that I thought looked pretty cool.
yeah, I like that. Like where it almost kind of just looks like ants or whatever, just like
Yeah,
wreaking
because it's
havoc.
like really high up and there's just like blood everywhere and there's like fires and shit. Um, so yeah. So basically the people who are at the diner are trying to figure out how they're going to survive, and they decide that they're going to go hide in this guy's attic. Because you can't tell that there's an attic there or something.
As if the
So,
vampires wouldn't be able to smell them.
okay, that's my question because they don't really seem like they're able to. Because there's like so many situations where like, and that's where I was saying my main gripe comes from, where they're just like staying in the same place for like weeks at it, like days at a time. But like the vampires, like number one, we know that they're like checking all the houses, but like they just don't find them. That's the thing that was confusing to me.
Yeah.
Well, you're forgetting that they can't smell because since they live in Alaska, they always have colds and flus and can't smell anything.
Yeah, this is the first time the vampires are there, so they definitely got sick.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, that's why I kind of was like, okay, it's probably fine, but I think for me, I needed somebody to say, like, maybe I missed it. I don't know, but
Did,
I felt like
did you
I
need the
needed
vampire to be like, I've got a cold, damn this?
Just start sniffling.
I can't track those humans.
Yeah,
They're like blowing their nose. Do you have a lozenge?
They're all biting people's necks and like wiping snot away.
It's the snot that's like making them vampires, not the blood.
Yeah.
Um,
Just dribbling snot into people's mouths.
Their open wounds.
Yeah.
There's like sneezing into each other's faces. Whoops. No, like I feel like I needed one of the people to say like, I don't know. I just needed the fact that it was ambiguous to me. I just didn't like. Anyways, so yeah, they're gonna go to this attic. It's kind of far away. Eben and Stella, like every time Eben's like, I have to go do this thing, and then Stella would be like, I'm coming with you, and then he'd be like, okay, and I'm like, can we just skip it? Can we just? Anyways, they go to get some bear traps. Okay. But the truck that like the like sheriff trucks that they're in is like immediately attacked by a group of vampires and tipped over, and pretty scary. The vampires are trying to like grab them out of the upside down truck, but then a snowplow comes through and just like plows through the vampires and saves them. Pretty cool.
How do we know that these vampires aren't just stoked that like their team won the World Series or something? Because this is very World Series victory behavior, flipping over cars and running around the town.
I mean, Cleveland Guardians won the World Series.
They're like, we're just trying to party. Why are these people being so mean and trying to kill
See,
us? I don't get it.
the difference is that they all still have their shirts on.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. It is cold though,
Fair,
Yeah.
but I still feel
and
like
there's
that
no
doesn't stop
booze.
anyone in Canada when they their team wins.
But Canada has the booze still.
Yeah.
True. I don't know. I feel like
Well,
one of these vampires should have just been naked.
just one of them.
Yeah, at least one of them. If their team won like the World Series, one of them should have been naked running around.
But what if it's like It Follows and everyone's running around like fucking stuff up and there's just the one naked vampire standing on a roof?
Slowly walking at them.
Just
Ew. That's like scary in a different way.
I now need a vampire It Follows version where there's just vampires wreaking havoc, but one of them's being followed by like a random naked person the whole movie.
and that naked
Wait,
person is
a
doing
naked
kung
person-
fu. Like
The naked person is following a vampire, or the
Yeah,
vampire
the vampire is
naked?
the one being followed because it's got to pass on
Okay.
whatever STD is in
The
It Follows.
the naked person just has like a clove of garlic in its hand. Just
I love the
following
idea of like the vampires in this one. These like vicious vampires like looking over their shoulder, being like, "God, that fucking guy, naked guy's here again."
that naked guy's back.
Dr. Marlowe, do something about this. Okay.
We've written a much better movie than 30 Days of Night.
I think so. Okay, essentially they all get to the house that has the attic that they were gonna hide in. They get up there and Jake is essentially just like, "Hey guys, I think these are vampires. Like, I saw them bite somebody," and everyone's like, "Vampires don't exist." I don't know what they think is happening at this point, like, but whatever.
It's so funny to me in any of movies like this or zombie movies or whatever, where like people are just like, "No, this is it can't be."
They're doing better in this than every zombie movie though, because they know what vampires are.
Yeah, fair.
You know,
Right.
Like,
in zombie movies, everyone's like, "What could this be?"
I think
The undead man.
I do like the line later when like they get ready to burn the town down, where like the Barrow Marlowe was just like we've like, you know, let them like I can't remember the exact dialogue, but he says something about
he said
like
something
like
like
letting
we've
them
made them
oh good
think we're a bad dream.
yeah like and now we
Yeah,
can't
it's
let
like
it get
we
out
made
that
them
like
think
we're
a bad
real.
dream.
So like
I'm like, but
I kind of like the idea that it acknowledges that vampires are like a myth in this universe, like it's a real world, as
Yeah.
opposed to like zombie
But-
movies. It's just like a thing where like it doesn't.
people don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of like, well, people do know that what vampires are though. But yeah, I do like the idea of like something existing and then us knowing what it is but thinking it's not real. But then it is real. So
Like Bigfoot.
yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah. Like mummies. No, just kidding. So okay, so I did write Barlow. Marlowe and folks go
Marlboro.
to
He's a cigarette man.
smoking naked cigarette man. That sounds like literally
Just
like
a cowboy
Stephen
hat
King
on.
book. Yeah. They go to the police station where Ben is there, and he's essentially just like, "You know, Ben, you've been super awesome. You did all this shit we want. You did all the vandalism we asked. Because essentially what we come to realize is that Ben is the one that came into the town and like completely isolated them. So like killed the dogs because they were sled dogs. Still hate it. Burned all the phones, cut the power, cut the whatever, and he's the one that like basically rolled in during the last day and like made all this possible. So they're like, "Bro, you did awesome. You're great. Love you. Don't worry, we're gonna take care of you." And then he's like, "LOL, just kidding," and breaks his neck. hope he rots in hell for killing all those dogs, honestly. Then this is when, like, they're all in the attic. They're, like, looking out of this little peephole, and they can see that the vampires are literally just, like, going around and ransacking all the houses around them. And they're kind of arguing about, like, whether they should stay in the attic or whether they should run. Because, like, their plan, there's this moment where, like, you really realize that they're kind of like, okay, well, we're going to try and hide and just, like, we'll think of a plan later, but for right now, we're going to hide and just, what's the word? Ration their food.
Yeah.
Because it's, like, right in the beginning, and then they realize, like, holy shit, they have to last for literally 30 days at least. And the idea of thinking you have to survive from, like, bloodthirsty creatures for an entire month was just like, man, that really sucks.
Seems not fun.
I do it at work every day.
Yeah, same. That's why I don't want to watch it in a movie.
So, okay, Eben is like, all right, fine. Next time that there's a blizzard, like, we can't leave the house without cover of some sort. So next time there's a blizzard, we're going to go to the store and get some supplies, and then we're going to go to this other facility. They said the name of it a bunch of times, but I don't remember what it was. But anyways, they think that if they can get there, then they can, like, basically hole out. But it's kind of far away. So I wrote, some idiot is walking down the middle of the street yelling for help, and the vampires are all flocking around her on the rooftops. Because I didn't realize, like, essentially Eben looks out and is like, yeah, we can't go rescue her because the vampires are trying to lure us out and see where we are. But at first I was just like, you idiot, they're gonna find you. And this scene is like even though I haven't seen this movie, I have seen this scene, and I feel like this is, like, the iconic scene from the trailer where essentially, like, nobody comes out. So the lady is like, listen, nobody's here. I tried, like, you know, please don't hurt me. And PhD Barlow is like, oh, well. And she says, like, no, God, please don't kill me or something. And he's like, God. And he, like, looks around and looks at the sky. And then he's like, no, God. And then everyone takes turns slapping her until they kill her. Pretty shitty.
I like the idea of them, like, using her as bait.
Yeah.
I like the idea of vampires that slap you around like they're mafiosos before they kill you.
They pretty much do. They literally were just, like, standing around her, like, slapping her with, like, their gross hands with their big claws.
Just shouting gabagool.
Just slapping. It didn't come on the side. So also, though, like, I feel like if a bunch of vampires were like, okay, listen, I want you to run down the street and ask for help to lure these people out, and if you do it, we won't kill you, I would be like, no, you're definitely gonna kill me, and I would not be doing it.
I'm gonna die either way, so
let's not go down being a dick, you know what I mean? Okay. So Eben, like, comes outside anyways to just kind of, like, scope out what's going on, I guess. And he sees helicopter wife guy underneath a house. And he's like, oh shit, bro. And he goes and he pulls him out from underneath the house.
Exact dialogue
and he's like,
from this movie.
He picks him up, and helicopter guy's like, oh man, I'm so hungry. And Eben's like, don't worry, guy, we'll get you some food. But then he looks at him, and he is all vamped out, and Eben's like, holy shit, and he, like, stumbles away, and he's like, dude, what's wrong with you? And the whole scene was, like, pretty cool, I thought, because, like, helicopter guy obviously still, like, recognizes him and is speaking to him, but you can see his, like, instinct of becoming a vampire taking over, and he, like, can't control it. So he starts to, like, go after Eben, and he is just kind of like, what the fuck's going on? But essentially he ends up just axing him, and he's got to kill him.
It rules how he's all, like, tangled up in the swing set.
Yeah, and he cuts set off.
All of the axing in this movie is pretty sick.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, like, the choreography was pretty good and believable. There's, like, one scene that made me really mad, that we'll get to.
Yeah, I never
Um,
feel like anybody is like necessarily doing anything outside of like what would be their regular capabilities, which I like. Like no one's like a super vampire fighter or whatever.
yeah.
Like they all just kind of feel like real people dealing with the situation.
It would rule though if like an hour and a half into the movie, it turns out one of the like survivors or whatever was like Tony Jaa, and he just starts kicking the shit out of all the vampires by himself.
Yes, I'm in.
I would love that. Sorry, my cats. One of them was trying to get out, and one of them was trying to get in, and they were both just, you know how cats are.
Yep.
Okay,
Cat swap.
Yeah.
cat swap.
Cat
Oh no,
swap is the real purge.
no, nobody. Well, listen, I love my cats to death, but nobody wants them. Believe me. Okay. So, okay, he just killed his friend. He even like makes it back into the house, and he has lost his inhaler. Not great. And I wrote, oh my God, this old guy that I didn't really write down any of the group of people who are like survivors as names or
It
whatever.
doesn't matter.
No, one of them is this old guy who unfortunately is suffering from some kind of like dementia or something like that, because he keeps having these things where he's like, oh my God, where's, his wife, who, it's like him and his son, and we find out that his wife has passed away a while ago, and so that adds just like a whole nother level to like devastation to this situation, honestly. But anyways, he gets up and he like leaves the attic while everyone's sleeping except Stella's supposed to be watching. And this scene gave me so much anxiety because he's just like yelling. He's like, I'm going to Waynesburg, or whatever he said. He's like, I'm going here. You're not going to stop me. And he's like yelling. And she's like, please, you have to be quiet. Like, shut up, because they don't want the vampires to hear them or whatever. So essentially, like, he's like, okay, fine, sorry. I need to go to the bathroom. And then when he's in the bathroom, he sneaks out the window. So the old guy goes, and his son also leaves to go after him. Eben wakes up and finds Stella downstairs, and she's like, I'm sorry, like I couldn't do anything, they left or whatever. But then they hear the vampire, who I thought looked like Dave Bautista, comes in and is like looking around. But then we hear the men that just went outside, so he leaves to follow them to like get him or whatever. He does end up getting him because, he's out there yelling like
He's
an
just
idiot.
like screaming, "Dad!"
Dad! I don't think we see what happens to the dad, but obviously he's also eaten. Eben and Stella sort of like bond over what's happening, of course. They hear a bunch of vampires running around on the roof. I don't know why, I just had a picture of them playing like soccer up there or something.
Yeah.
Um,
Playing hockey like in Clerks.
Playing hockey, but like in my head I heard like the Harlem Globetrotters like theme song up there. Eden looks out to see that the vampires, they were just like passing by or whatever, but he sees that it's snowing, so they know that it's time to leave. What? Snowpires?
Snowpires.
Oh.
I don't know. That just popped in my head. I had to say it.
Okay. We're having a normal one today. So, I also felt like I'm noticing this more and more with like movies, older movies, and like movies in this era, where it's becoming more apparent to me that what they're on is a set and not actually outside. And I feel like obviously that just comes with age, but I feel like if I would have watched this at the time, I would have been like, wow, they're really out there in Antarctica. You know what I mean? Because like they show this like overview of the city, of like the town with it like blizzarding, and I didn't feel like it looked super great.
No,
like there was a weird effect to it.
I think when it's like the full blizzard, it looks pretty bad. I think the rest of the time when it's not, like it just looks like it's snow, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I agree.
It was shot in New Zealand. I don't know. Does it snow in New Zealand?
I'm sure it does. I'm just trying to remember Lord of the Rings if it was ever snowy.
That's literally what went to my mind, and I feel like
That's all I know about New Zealand.
I'm gonna ask.
Ask Peter Jackson. He'll tell us.
Okay. Let's
Yeah, it falls in mountain areas.
That's what I was gonna say. I feel like there's at least a mountain scene where it's snowy in
West of the South
Lord of the
Island
Rings.
also.
Well, anyways, okay. So yeah, they get to the general store, and when they're there, they discover a little vampire girl. She's decapitated someone, so that's not great, and she is attacks them. She's like screeching and running around and jumping on people and doing flips and shit. Jake, who we find out is 15. I don't think so. He ends up being the one that like axes her or whatever, and then he's like fucked up for the rest of the movie about it, essentially. But yeah, the blizzard stops and they get stuck in the convenience store, and this is when we get like on text screen that says day 18, and I was like, did I miss the other days, or we just like skipped to day 18?
No, I mean it does skips days, like it doesn't show every day.
I know, but I just felt like the portion of the movie that we saw being 18 days just seemed really weird, but whatever. So, okay, this is when they figure out their new plan. This is Stella's idea. They're basically going to move to the police station. Eben is going to lure the vampires to Grandma Ellen's house. And when he gets there, he's going to use her weed-growing lamps to basically scare the vampires away, because the vampires are going to think that it's the sun. Why not?
They're scared of weed.
Yeah.
Man, that would be that would be a great twist. Too bad, like, when they get there, Grandma Helen's weed plants do not look very good. So, okay, that's what they do. This I thought was kind of weird, though, because there's one of the men that's, like, traveling with them. He's the one that comes up with the idea of making a distraction. And we find out why later, but at this moment, he doesn't volunteer to be the distraction. So that was kind of confusing to me. Anyways, the group leaves this, like, Evan leaves. The group, he's, like, running, and he's like, hey, blah, like, yelling and shit. So while he's running, the group also leaves the store. They do make it to the station, but one of the guys gets grabbed. So he's gone. So Eben gets to Grandma Helen's weed house, and the vampires are all closing in on her. Marlo, like, this is when I assumed that this was his girlfriend, just because these two are always together. But she kind of is, like, hesitant to go into the house, but Marlo kind of, like, is like, come on, go in there. And she's like, all right. So she opens the door, and then Eben uses the light on her, and she gets really crispy. And she's screaming and shit. And while the other vampires are trying to, like, cut the power to the house, Eben escapes out the back and radios Stella and says, like, hey, don't wait for me. Like, I made it out, but, you know, who knows where he is at this point. Then one of the other guys that's at the station is like, okay, now it's my turn to be the diversion. So he leaves and gets in that scary machine that was like from the beginning. I have no idea what that machine was, but had some kind of like crazy blades on it.
It rules.
And it also has,
Speaking
as we
of
find
Lord
out,
of the Rings. Oh wait, no, this
why?
is the
'Cause
different
he's like
guy.
Gimli?
Never mind. Yeah, he's from Lord of the Rings, right? Or am I thinking of somebody else that was in this movie?
No, Slade was in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. For some reason, I thought this guy was in. This guy looks like he should have been in Lord of the Rings.
He kind of does. I didn't recognize him, but oh wow, he's from Memento
Oh, yeah,
and
he's in,
Batman
like, a bunch of
Begins
shit.
and Too Fast, Too Furious.
Yeah, I'll say he's the detective from Too Fast, Too
He
Furious.
was in The Quick and the Dead.
As the rats almost eat him.
Ugh. Hate to see it.
What a cool role.
I didn't recognize him, so good for him.
He's Flass in Batman Begins.
Yeah,
He's
but
somebody in John Carpenter's Vampires.
Oh, is he really?
And he's in I
Is
Still Know What You Did Last Summer.
Oh man,
What a king.
What a king.
He's
He's
in
looking.
Frankenfish and Dead Birds.
Yeah, Dead Birds rules.
Man, he's in something called the North Pole Deception as somebody named Hogspot.
Look, I respect him more for not being in Lord of the Rings, so.
He's in the Donner Party. Yeah, I.
he's he's in Seven as a greasy FBI man.
Yeah, I like that's his number one, like his top thing on Letterboxd is 7.
Amazing.
I love it.
All right, anyway.
Well, all right, yeah. Well, he was in Pete and Pete.
Yes. Still mad at
Oh,
Nickelodeon.
ooh, he's in
Yeah, Elise.
Seinfeld.
Oh, we
Yes,
haven't done a Seinfeld
Seinfeld
connection in a long time.
Yeah, I never look at IMDb anymore. I just look at Letterboxd. IMDb became unnavigable for me, so.
Yeah, it's not great. Yeah, he is in the subway episode of Seinfeld. At this point, people are probably like, what are you guys even talking about?
Good.
Because we haven't done it in so long. Okay. So he is driving that scary rig machine. We also find out that it has bear traps on the back of it. Very cool. So he's basically just like mowing them down. He's creating a diversion for everybody. There's vampires like jumping on the back of his like rig, but there's like bear traps back there and stuff. Unfortunately, though, he does crash into a building, and when the vampires start coming towards him, he explodes some dynamite. I think some kind of explosion happens,
Okay, where he's
and
like, "You're not gonna eat me," and then gets eaten anyway.
Yeah. Well, and then he ends up like jumping out the window after he sets off the explosion, and unfortunately, PhD Marlowe stomps on his head. Pour one out for a real one.
Not
I
great.
feel like not great, but I also feel like that's a better way to go than having your neck ripped off.
I feel like as much as the movie sucks, the head stomping in Halloween 2, the Rob Zombie one, is pretty gruesome, and they could have done better in this.
Yeah, it was pretty anticlimactic of a head stomp, honestly, but
disappointing. You can't have a subpar head stomp.
Yeah.
So let's see. Eben makes it back to the police station, and it is revealed that the guy who originally was like, "Hey guys, what about a distraction?" or whatever, it turns out that he had gotten bit by the little girl in the grocery store and is turning to a zombie, and he asks Eben to kill him, and he does. My question at this point was like, why are they not now using him as a diversion? Like, he could have at least gone out there and tried to take some out or whatever, but instead they just like go into a back room and Eben kills him. We don't even see it. So I thought that was kind of lame. Now we're at day 27. So we just start really skipping ahead. At this point, Eben looks outside and sees a flashlight in a window across the street. So he goes over and finds out that it's Billy. So Billy is still alive, but unfortunately his wife and children are dead, and he is pretty sad about it.
Yeah, it's because didn't he kill them?
I think that he did imply that he had to. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the one, he kills him, and then Eben like loses his mind on him. He's like, "You had a family."
Not anymore. So Eben and Billy have this moment that I felt something's going on out there. That I felt was like very sweet, and basically he's just kind of like trying to be there for him and comfort him, and I feel like those kinds of scenes in movies are not like two guys trying to comfort each other is like not really common, and I really liked the scene. And it's pretty sad. So Stella and Eben like are like carrying Billy. I don't know if he's hurt or if he just like is so distraught that he can't like get his shit together or whatever, but they're like carrying him across the street to go back to the station. But when they get there, everyone's gone. So they go and they hide under a building, and Then there is a blood-covered child just like walking down the street. And at this point, I thought maybe it was like another diversion, but I don't think it is. Stella runs out and saves the little girl and basically just like runs away. Billy, and this part kind of confused me too because I felt like Billy was trying to make a diversion, but then he like immediately hides and Eben's just standing out there like in the clearing, like, what the fuck, dude? So they're both like running around trying to, I don't know, create a diversion or whatever. And eventually, Eben makes it to the facility and is reunited with the group again. But Stella and the little girl have not made it yet. At this point, the only people left are the girl that was with the two workers earlier, Lucy, who was like the diner maid, and Jake, the brother, right? I think it's just those three.
Yeah, I think so. No, there's two women, but I can't remember if they're at the refinery or whatever.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, then yeah.
So it's just those three. Everyone else has been picked off. So Billy... Oh, wait, I'm sorry. It's Marlowe. I wrote B because I thought his name was Barlow. Marlowe, Captain THD Marlon Barlow, tells his vampire group, this is when he's basically like, we need to make sure everyone is destroyed because we've made sure that people think vampires aren't really real, so we can't leave any evidence behind to prove that we exist or whatever. So at this point, Billy makes it back to the facility, but there's the Dave Bautista vampire was following him this entire time and basically attacks Billy. I think bites or rips his hand off or something. He's like splurting blood. I do have to say that I felt like the bite and blood effects in this movie looked really cool. Like they were totally fine and good, and you know,
fine and good.
Fine. And yeah. So he's splurting blood and screaming and shit. Eben is like struggling with the vampire, and then Billy pushes the vampire like over into this compactor thing. It looked fine. It was normal. This scene I thought was super cool. So Billy is like screaming and shit because his hand's gone, and also he's got wounds or whatever, and he's like yelling really loud, but then his yell turns into like a vampire screech.
Yeah.
And we see him, so he's like, oh, couch. And he's turning into a vampire. Like we see him turning into a vampire essentially. Eben immediately axes him in the neck, and this is like one of the only times that we really get a full view of like Eben axing somebody, I feel like, and I thought this scene looked really good. He essentially just like hacks into him until his head falls off. Looks good. It's great.
I remember
Probably
being
my
like genuinely
scene.
surprised watching it like when this came out and being like, damn.
Yeah, he did it.
Like I was just surprised how much they showed of it.
Yeah, because we do get like most of the kills are either like off screen or they're just like someone's getting bitten, you know?
Like it's just steady
not,
cam to fuck so you can't see what's happening.
Yeah. So, very cool scene. Denise, I did write her name for once for some reason. One of the girls basically finds chocolates, vitamins, and vodka. What else do you need, really? And
the essentials.
Yeah. EBV, you know? So she's basically just like, yeah, very cool, we made it. Tomorrow's daylight. Like, why don't we celebrate or whatever? And Eben is like trying to call Stella because he still doesn't like know where she is or whatever. And finally he gets through to her. Oh, that's why I said they made it till the last night. So this is the last night, day after Survivor or whatever. Stella calls and essentially it's just like, we're hiding under, this is the part where I was like, okay, well, it's very obvious that the vampires can't smell anybody because Stella and this little girl are hiding underneath a truck and there's just vampires walking around.
Well,
I'm like, how can't you see them
at this point though?
Yeah.
It's more
They have what?
it's like they have colds, or like at this point, it's
Oh.
like 30 days. Like earlier
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense because they would have been fine. Now now they're all sick.
Yeah. They've
Well,
all got the
I'm
flu.
wondering, I'm wondering if they're just trying to be like, oh, well, it's cold, so like they can't smell, like your scent doesn't travel or whatever. But I don't know. It
So
just really bothered me. I needed somebody to tell me definitively.
one
Because
thing one thing nobody tells you about vampires is that along with the teeth, they also grow nostrils in the top of their head, and it can only sniff above their height level.
Oh, that seems
Yeah.
unnecessary.
It's very weird, but
Don't
vampires
stand.
are a
Don't.
strange beast.
Yeah. Good thing I'm short then. They would never smell me.
Yeah.
I,
Just keep low.
I looked up COVID vampire movie because I felt like that had to be a
Oh,
thing at this
no.
point, and
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
one of the top results is Glenn Danzig interview for Erotica Misfits Death Rider. So he's just talking about filming his
What?
movie during COVID.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
As
That's
basically everything
better than I
else
was
is
anticipating.
just bullshit. Like it's just coming up with, like, best vampire movies, and
I'm assuming that didn't somebody else do like a COVID one, but I'm assuming they turned into zombies or something.
yeah, there's like a bunch of
It was
COVID
the
movies.
full moon, right?
Yeah, Full Moon made
Yeah.
a movie called Corona Zombies that's like just footage from other movies with new dialogue.
Is it
And they
footage
did that like
from like
April.
Corona
Yeah, that shit got like
commercials?
released in like April.
of
Okay.
last year.
Yeah, of 2019.
Pre-COVID.
Oh my god.
Full Moon.
Oh my god.
Full Moon is the reason we got COVID.
Honestly,
Yes.
we deserve it because of full moon.
Because not enough of you are watching the Evil Bong franchise.
It's my fault. I'm sorry.
Yep.
If you had watched
Um,
King Bong with us, this would have never happened.
I can't even remember what happened, but it probably wasn't a good enough reason to give everyone Corona because I didn't watch it. So sorry about that.
I still believe you were just like, I'm not doing this.
I don't remember.
I think
That's
you were.
fair.
I think you were sick.
That's
but
a good reason.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay. Well, I paid for it, so okay. Okay, yeah. So Stella is like, "Hey, we're under this car." Jake looks out and he can see the car that they're under, and that's when I'm like, "Yeah, the vampires are just like walking around her." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" So the vampires have broken a pipeline that has gas or oil in it or something,
yeah, it's an
and so
oil
there's
pipeline.
oil trickling down everywhere, and they light it on fire because they're going to burn down the town to try and like cover the fact that vampires were there and sort of make it just look like it was like a bad like accident, which I was really into. This is like Eben basically realizes that like he has to go out there and do something or Stella will die either way. Like if she stays there, she's gonna burn essentially, but if she tries to leave or run or whatever, the vampires are gonna get her, so he's got to do something. So essentially he tells Jake to call Stella, and when she sees him, to run. He's gonna create a diversion, and what he does is he goes to Billy's dead body and extracts blood from him using a needle. And yeah, he's basically just like, we can't, like we have some time before we turn into vampires or whatever, and we can't fight them as people, so I'm just gonna turn myself into a vampire and go fight them as a vampire, which pretty cool.
Sure.
I love it. I like that
Why not?
turn, I guess, of like him just being like, fuck it, but it's like, I have to be a vampire
Yeah,
to beat him.
You know what? If you can't beat him, join him and then beat him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he does that. He injects himself. It was pretty funny too because Jake was like, "Ew, that's someone else's blood." I was like, "Yeah, it is." So he injects himself with the blood. He starts to change immediately. Like we see his eyes get all black and stuff. It's pretty cool. And then he goes outside to like face the other vampires. Jake tells Stella to run. And she kind of gets out from under the car, but then just sort of like stands there and watches. So like, but Eben just starts like beating on Marlowe. So they fight a bunch. This final standoff between him is the thing that made me mad because the CG looked so bad. Essentially, Eben and Marlowe are just like fighting, and then Marlowe like leaps at Eben, and Eben just like fists him through his mouth and like punches out his brain or something and kills him. And it looked so
rad.
bad.
I love it.
I was like, what? I'm like not even kidding.
Perfect.
It was the worst CG in the whole movie, and I was like really mad about it.
But
he's just dead.
I feel like it's slightly anticlimactic, but it happens so out of nowhere that it rules.
Well, and I do like that, like, he does it, and then all of the other vampires are just like, okay, I'm out, and they leave because they're also just like, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I don't, don't expect
It's gotta
it.
be somebody for the sequel.
Yeah. So then so all the other vampires leave. Everyone starts to come out of hiding. We also see that it's like kind of getting light because dawn's approaching. Stella comes out to Eben and is kind of just like, oh no. Then it just cuts to Eben and Stella watching the sunrise together. And it's really sad because like she finds out that he's been wearing his wedding ring like around his neck, and she kisses him and stuff, and they hug. And he just turns to ash, and he's like all crispy, and he dies while she's holding him. And then there's like this shot of
Eats
her
him.
like looking. Whoa.
I mean, he is burnt up.
Yeah.
She could.
She likes her nuggets crispy.
It's like the marshmallow has that, and then you can just like peel it off, and then
Nice and
gooey
gooey right in the middle.
All the goo's in the center.
That's probably him. So they have this shot where she's like looking up over his like crispy corpse, and she looks pissed. Like she's so pissed, I assume that she's going to become like a vampire killer or something. And then it's the end.
Hashtag cinema. Crispy marshmallow cinema.
Yeah. Hashtag crisp.
So yeah, like I said, my only gripe was really kind of like the things I felt like they didn't solidify for me, like the rules of the vampires or whatever. But like overall, pretty good.
Well, you gotta save some stuff for the 3 other 30 Days of Night movies.
Yeah.
Are there 3?
There's at least 1 live action sequel, and I think there's
I think there's an animated one, right?
There's an animated one, and then there's something that was a 7-part miniseries on fearnet.com that I don't know if it's animated or live action.
You made that up.
Nope, 30 Days of Night Blood Trails.
Fear.com?
Yeah.
I watched
fearnet.com.
There's this movie from 2010 called 30 Days of Night Dark Days.
Yeah, that's the live action
Oh,
sequel.
shit.
What a stupid subtitle.
Listen, but it is well, obviously this is a different actress, but it is after surviving
Stella.
the incidents in Barlow, Stella relocates to Los Angeles, where she intentionally attracts why Los Angeles?
But why? Because they didn't want to go back to like they could just film where they were like their offices were at. The movie is horrible.
30 Days of Night, L.A.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
What? How?
It doesn't look great from these screenshots. I at least appreciate that they did sort of do the same vampire style or whatever, but like, yeah, I don't think I'll be watching this one.
Yeah, it's not good. All right, news.
Okay. Let's see here. Did you guys see that Zack Snyder is making a sequel to Army of the Dead?
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Like an animated one too, right? For
that
Netflix.
I don't know.
I knew that got announced. I thought I didn't read the article, but I assumed he was making an actual sequel. But I know that
I will.
That's what I thought.
I know they were like when actual Army of the Dead got announced, they had said that they were already working on like the animated thing, and then like I think character movies about like each character, some shit like that.
Why?
So who knows?
Awful.
Yeah, I'll end up watching all
so
of
we
them
have
because I hate myself.
clearly. I feel like an animated one would be fine, but the I Know What You Did Last Summer
Nope.
series
Yes.
is premiering October.
Directed by
October
Zack
on
Snyder.
Prime.
All right, I'm in.
No, it's oh, shut
Zack
up.
Snyder and
It's-
Rob Zombies. I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yikes. I'm really interested for it because it's going to be based more on the novel, but then they're also updating it even
There's a
more. So
novel?
like,
Yeah, the movie's
Yeah.
based off a novel.
The fuck?
from like, isn't it from like the 70s or
Yeah, it's
something?
an
It's
old
really
book.
old.
I had no fucking idea.
I
What?
didn't either, and
Yeah.
I watched
So
it.
weird to me.
I watched it in June, and I was like looking up something about it, and I saw something about it being based. Or no, it's like in the
You-
credits. It's like it said like based off of whatever, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
I
you and
hate
I were
that.
talking about it because it was like, I remember being like, yeah, I remember it's like pretty old, and it was like, we were talking specifically about like how there weren't cell phones yet, but then like in the movie they don't use their cell phones to call people because I don't know, weird. Anyways, that's James Wan, but I'm 100% gonna watch it. I'm pretty excited.
I feel like we're hitting this
then-
point where now we're just reverting back to like early 2000s horror, where it's just everything's fucking remakes and reboots or whatever. Like all the shit I see anyone talk about is like this, the new Scream movie, another Halloween,
I feel like for me
another fucking
personally,
Scream.
I don't mind when it's like at least something different. Like if they're taking a movie series and then turning it into a like TV series, I'm really into, because like I really liked the most of it. I really liked the Scream series, and it was kind of like based on Scream, but it was like different enough that
It's based on the novel of Scream.
I don't... So I'm interested to see like what they do different, because it's going to be, I don't know, it's not going to be just a rehashing of the movies, which I think will be cool.
We'll see.
So I'm excited for that.
Look, as long as we stop getting Pet Sematary shit, I don't care.
Nope.
Make everything else that you
They
want.
just
I don't
announced
want
they
any more
announced
Pet
Pam
Sematary.
Greer's in the
Yeah.
sequel.
And I
was like,
love-
oh man.
I love Pam Grier, but stop.
You
stop that right now.
you didn't read the article. She plays the truck, and it's the backstory of the truck.
Okay, get lost.
You know that movie would
She's
be
the
so good.
cemetery.
The truck was buried in the cemetery, and the truck is actually dead too.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere. I take back what I said.
I'm actually
All of the
surprised that
houses
wasn't
in the
the
town.
real story.
Oh my god! Could you like that truck just crosses over with Maximum Overdrive? We got us a movie.
What if
I mean,
crossover? The teleporters from The Fly are in the Pet Cemetery, so they bury like the bull and that truck in the Pet Cemetery at the same time, and it fuses them, so it's like an evil bull truck that comes back.
could you imagine digging a grave for a truck, a semi-truck? That would take you so long. It would be like the entire Pet Cemetery.
That's a very big cemetery.
Yeah. See, what you do is you put all the other bodies inside the truck, and then bury it.
That's a good idea.
Oh, there you go.
See?
Yeah, okay, this would suck, but if you buried the truck long ways, like it would suck to build it to like dig it that one time, but then after that, all you have to do is just like move a little dirt, open the back gates of the truck, throw the bodies in.
So yeah, so easy to bury everyone else after that.
Yeah, just throw them in. Okay, the last thing that I saw is that this could either be the greatest thing ever, or it could be very bad.
We already talked about Pam Grier being the truck in Pet Sematary.
Okay, so Weekly World News is starting to develop their properties into films, TV, and
I'm
podcasts.
in. That's all you had to say.
No
The
video
first-
games?
One of them has to
I
take
don't
off
know.
first.
Maybe.
I want a Batboy video game.
Yeah, you see, the Batboy movie
So-
has to take off first. And then you get
Everyone-
Uwe Boll doing Batboy.
Tell that to Angry Birds.
He's-
Angry Birds was a game first.
That's true. The very first feature film from them is going to be called The Zombie Wedding. So we'll see how that goes.
We will, because
I'm really
we're
interested.
absolutely doing it on this
Nathan-
podcast.
Nathan, how can you complain about all of these remakes and stuff when we're getting original gems like The Zombie Wedding too?
Because literally no one but us is going to talk about that.
I mean, yeah.
It's perfectly
But,
fine with me, as long as I see it.
I'm really excited to see what the podcast is going to be, because I assume it's going to be like a cryptid style podcast, but like for their made up cryptids.
Yeah, I hope
or
it's
something.
like a fake true crime podcast, but about Batboy.
The murder of Batboy.
So we'll see. I know, of course, like number one, everyone's clamoring for a Batboy movie, but we'll see. It could be the greatest thing that's ever happened to us.
I'm definitely in. Whatever Weekly World News wants to do,
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Total support.
All right, what everybody watch lately? Kit, what'd you watch?
Don't sound so excited.
Well, I was trying to pull up my
Pig.
list.
Pig fucking rules. Highly recommend if it's playing around anyone. What else did I see? Everything else I think I've watched for the podcast. Not recommending Green Lantern or. I did watch Body Double. Body Double is fucking bonkers.
Is that fuck, what's his name?
Brian De Palma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That movie's good.
Like, it's so ridiculous. I need to find Pat's review real quick, because Pat's review sums it up pretty well. If being horny was a crime, De Palma would cop a life sentence just for this film alone.
Oh, jeez.
Is that the one that's got Barbara Crampton in it, like one of her first like movie roles?
Super
Yeah.
briefly,
Yeah.
I think like literally for 10 seconds.
I heard her talk about it on like a
the main-
podcast.
The main guy like walks in, and she's on top of another man, like in their bed, and the main guy's just like, and then turns around and walks out, and that's the only time you see her.
What the heck?
Oh, it's so good. Katey,
So yeah, watch Pig and Body Double back to
Yeah.
back.
good double feature.
Oh, man.
Which
Yeah.
one do you watch first, though?
I'm gonna say Pig because it's very somber.
Yeah.
So you watch that first, and then you end on a high note with Body Double because it's insane.
All right, Katey, what about you?
Oh, gosh. I actually watched a lot of stuff. I guess it's been a while since we recorded, because now the second two Fear Street movies are out.
All
You watched an entire trilogy
bad.
since we last recorded.
Like, pretty much. I am so baffled by the amount of. Listen,
Fear
I've already said this.
streets.
Like, what?
There's so many
Actually,
streets.
not a lot of streets. No, there's really only like that one where the grave is, you know? I overall like it's fine. Like as a trilogy, I thought the idea was really cool. I thought the second part was awful. I hated it. To me, the second one was the worst. I'm not gonna really go into like all the reasons I didn't like it. And then the third one, I thought I am baffled.
About those
I
sweet
was-
Irish accents that all of these people can't do.
I actually somehow thought that their like 1800s pagan acting was better than their regular acting, and I don't know why. But I did like the third one. I think better than the other two a little bit, but still I'm really baffled who these movies are made for, even though I did see a few articles that were basically literally talking about how the director wants to make quote unquote more teen movies, which verifies to me that these are supposed to be for teens. Wow, though the third one has some shit in it that I think is pushing it for teens, but
Yeah,
whatever.
it's like I watched all three. The first one it was fine. It was enough that like I was like I'll check out the other two. I watched two and I was like I'm not watching three. And then I ended up watching it anyway just to like finish it, and I
Round
hated
it
it.
out.
I hated it so much. No one in this series can act. They're all fucking terrible and unlikable. I honestly I really feel like cuz all I ever see anyone that'll be like 5 stars, like gay representation, and I'm just like that's not enough reason to give this these 5 stars cuz these are terrible. And the queer people in it are the most unlikable people in the entire movie. Like, or trilogy or
I
whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of holes in it. And I feel like I don't
It's
know,
literally
whatever.
people are just like, oh, this is like Scream. I liked Scream. Oh, this is Friday the 13th. I liked Friday the 13th. Like, that's all it is. And I just wish people would admit, they're just like, I like this because it reminds me of other things I like, instead of
Which
being
is
like, this
totally
is new and
fine.
fun, and because it's not.
Like, no, definitely not. It's totally fine to like stuff because it reminds
Yes.
you of other things. Like, that's the whole point behind like the
Star
nostalgia
Wars.
community or whatever. To-
The slasher genre.
What?
Yeah, basically.
But like, not my preference. I will never watch them again.
I am a big fan of how
Like,
almost every song they used came out after the time period it was supposed to be set in.
yeah. Anyways, moving on because I don't want to just keep doing this discourse.
Yeah.
I also, I will admit, I turned it off. Chris and I tried to watch the new Space Jam. Very awful, terrible. Like I understand. Again, I go back to, okay, I get that this is a children's movie, but you're heavily relying on people who like Space Jam to either watch it or watch it with their kids or something. And I had a hard time seeing how even a child would like the movie, but that's just me. I really hated
are
it.
Looney Tunes?
Everything I've seen,
Oh, go ahead.
everything I've seen for it, all the references are like to R-rated films. It's like what children aren't gonna understand this. Who is this movie
Are
for?
Looney Tunes a thing kids are like into still?
They're still making them. Like there are new Looney Tunes that they have on HBO Max.
Weird.
But as to their popularity, no idea.
I feel like definitely not at the level that like our generation where you turn on the
yeah.
TV and Looney Tunes was always on. Like I
Yeah.
feel like kids probably do still, but like not the same way.
That's even more
And I
baffling
also
to me than like Fear Street, because Fear Street is something that like you could be like, okay, this is made for a specific audience that read these books or whatever, and like, but like teenagers will get into this because it's like a horror movie, and that's kind of universal. Like Looney Tunes is a thing that like like if you aren't already familiar with, you're not gonna seek out Space Jam. So like trying to be like this is a kids movie, it's like it's baffling to me that happened.
it's just the premise behind it is the dumbest shit I've ever heard of. And they also spend a really long time in the beginning kind of like educating you on who LeBron James is, and I'm like, children do not care about this. Can
That's
we move
the
on?
one thing children know about in this movie is LeBron James.
But anyways,
Also, they're the people that are like, who cares if it's bad? It's a kids movie or whatever. Kids deserve good movies also.
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
just shovel shit at them.
Yeah.
My other problem is that like the animation in it, like once LeBron gets to Toonverse or whatever the hell they're calling it, the animation
Toonberg.
is weird. It's bad. It's like, anyways, I
The
didn't like
only
it.
clip I've seen from it is when he transforms into a cartoon, and I was like, oh boy.
Oh, it's so bad.
So when are we doing it for the podcast?
I don't know if I can.
It will
then
get-
I'm gonna
watched-
I
choose
was
it.
like, it's gonna end up somehow becoming a pick for a bonus episode now.
It's gonna be that, and then Born into Mafia, and then Last Vampire on Earth again.
Yeah. What a triple feature.
I watched the Winchester movie because this weekend I went to the Winchester Mystery House and it was amazing. The Mystery House was amazing. The movie was not amazing. That wasn't good. Then I saw a bunch of people online talking about. I don't want to sound completely negative. I will end this with things that I like, but I saw everyone on there talking about how The Empty Man was so good. What a great movie. I'm so glad people are checking out The Empty Man. And you know what? The Empty Man also sucked. It was weird. The story, whatever. I didn't
Did you
like.
leave you feeling empty inside?
It did. I did like. I don't know. It started off kind of cool. And I was like, okay, cool, yeah. But then it just kind of got stupid. Then there was a moment where maybe it could have been cool, but then it just stayed stupid, and the twist was dumb. Anyways, I didn't like it. But then
He wasn't empty at all. He's
He was
full.
very
The full man.
he was so full.
Yeah,
So full,
stuffed
man.
with burritos.
The Fullman. Ooh, yeah. But then I watched Batman: Mystery of the Batwoman, which I love that movie. It's one of my favorites. So I rewatched that, and then I also finally got to watch the Batman versus Dracula.
So
Amazing, perfect. Wouldn't change a thing about it. I loved it. And then I feel like I watched something else.
good. You did. We're gonna
Two that I
argue
really-
about it.
Oh,
Dun dun.
and then I also watched
Fight.
Willy's Wonderland, which I did also not care for at all.
That's so good.
How dare you?
It's so stupid, but it
It's
rules.
a
What do you-
solid film.
What do you like about it?
I like Nick Cage
Everything.
not talking. I like him beating the
I thought that
absolute
was
shit
so
out of fucking
cheesy.
every fucking
Okay.
weird creature.
I like his
My-
car.
Yes.
His car is cool.
I honestly, I think, because I gave it 3.5 stars. And I know I'm biased because, like, I will watch anything with Nick Cage. And I feel like, regardless of the quality of the movie, I think he is completely watchable and, like, kind of makes the movies worth watching that he's in. And I think the only thing in it
Okay.
that I didn't like is I didn't like the teenagers. I thought they were, like, just...
I'm starting to think you just don't like
I
teens,
don't.
Nathan.
Just,
I
everybody under
mean,
the age
you know
of
what
30.
though?
Like,
I think it's really hard to write. Like, okay, listen, kids and teens, yeah, they're annoying, but they can also be totally normal people. And I feel like nobody who writes a movie featuring teens, like, has teens in their life. So they're just always the worst.
well, that's
like,
I think the problem with the kids in this movie is it's like whoever wrote them like the adults on Saved by the Bell
Yeah.
wrote teens, so they just weren't believable, like the shit they say. And it's, I don't know, like I just felt like the characters, like the main teenager, like the girl that's trying to like stop everything, is fine. It's like her friends are so like 90s slasher movie teenager that I was just kind of like, I don't like these people. But I like Nick Cage in it. I liked, like, because I had no idea, I think, until Kit watched it, and he was just like, I don't think he says like a single word in the whole movie, and I was like, I'm in, that rules. Beth Grant
I found
rules,
it
so her being
kinda-
in it was a
Yeah,
surprise.
I did like that she was in it.
It's by no means
I think that-
a great movie, but I think for like
solid.
it's for what it is, I think it was really good. It's just like a very like, because the premise alone is pretty dumb, and so I
Yeah.
liked every time he fought a monster, he went and changed his shirt. I like they would be in the middle of a fight and his wristwatch would go off and he'd be like, break time, because I fucking completely understand. I'd be like, oh, somebody spilled some shit, sorry, I'm going to break. So I don't know, I'm on
I
board.
just didn't. I didn't like the um the premise of the movie is like whatever, right? It's nothing great. I didn't like the way that the creatures like I didn't like the CG in it, and I thought it was weird to go with like there was so much like CG blood also that I thought looked really terrible. And I didn't like the way the movie was shot. Like it had some kind of weird filter on it where it was like blurry on the edges sometimes or whatever, and I just like aesthetically did not like it at all. Nick Cage is fine. I really liked that scene where he was like playing pinball and like dancing and shit. Like that was
I want
fun.
that pinball machine
But
so
like
bad.
yeah, but overall, yeah, just I just didn't like the way that it looked, and I didn't think that the creatures were interesting looking at all either. So
Now we gotta do the Banana
sorry.
Splits movie to see how you feel about that.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
want to say we need to measure them up.
Double feature coming soon. Alright. I watched a bunch of shit, mostly on the Arrow streaming app I signed up for.
I need to do
Oh,
that.
there's so much good shit on there.
I just canceled my Peacock because it pissed me off because
Peacock
it
is
sucks at
I
trash.
streaming.
I
It
I signed up
It's
for
so
it for
bad.
like the week when the Saved by the Bell reboot came out, and then immediately canceled it. I'm about to cancel HBO
I,
Max because I signed up for like all streaming. I know all executives for streaming sites are listening to this, so
Yeah.
just leave a fucking option that you could pay for like a year subscription, like Shudder does and like Arrow does, because then I don't have to fucking worry about it. Like HBO
Yeah.
Max, I signed up and it did like the 6 months for like whatever price, but now it's like, nope, you're paying $16 a month, and I'm like, bullshit. So I'm canceling that, and I'm gonna keep Arrow
Yeah.
instead. But
Yeah.
I watched the El Duce tapes, which is a documentary of this guy that filmed all of these interviews and all of this footage of El Duce from The Mentors, which is this like extremely shitty punk band from like the I think late 80s, early 90s. They were on like Jerry Springer with Gwar, and they just wrote all of these like extremely fucked up songs about like raping women and like essentially like weird white supremacist shit, but the documentary is pretty
the fuck?
fascinating. Like they were like this just
Yikes.
shitty edgelord band
Did,
before shitty edgelord bands kind of.
do they die at the end?
The El Duce gets drunk and gets hit by a train at the end.
Oh,
Ooh.
sick. All
So
right.
he dies, but it's also like the documentary is kind of it's fascinating because it's like at the beginning it starts out and you're like, God, this guy's a real piece of shit, and then you just realize like by the end of it, it's like, okay, this dude has severe mental illness, like had like this
Yeah.
fucked up like childhood that like by the end of it, like it's like he's just like this huge alcoholic, and like the only people like I think he's like homeless at the end of it, and ends up like, yeah, he's like just gets drunk one night, no one's heard from him, and like he ends up getting like hit by a train. So it's fucked up. Like I don't know, the documentary's really good. I recommend it. It's definitely some subject matter in it that is gonna be hard for people, but I think
Yeah.
if you can sit through that, it's pretty fascinating. There's like I remember he's in one of the documentaries about the death of Kurt Cobain, because he swore that Courtney Love paid him to kill Kurt.
Oh my
And so there's like
God.
an interview with him in one of the documentaries about that. It's pretty weird. I
Hmm.
watched a movie called The Bloodhound that I think is a new take on the fall of the House of Usher, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
It's like it's like this weird like new take on a Poe story. I think it was that one, but it's just like these two dudes in a house, and then like the one dude is like rich and like agoraphobic, and he has a wife who like never is allowed to come out of a room, and it's real weird. I don't totally
Is it from 2020?
Yeah. I don't know if I recommend it unless you're like somebody that's into Poe. I found it hard to sit through because it is like an hour something, and it's just like two characters that are pretty unlikable the entire time. Then I watched the Female Prisoner Scorpion quadrilogy, which I cannot. Well, it's 4 of them, so I can't recommend enough.
I know, it's just funny.
The 4th one isn't the best because it's like a different director. It's definitely like a sharp turn, but the first 3 are incredible. Cannot recommend enough. I now have to watch Lady Snowblood.
Oh, that movie whips.
It's like the same actress, Miko Kachi, I think is her name.
Yeah.
She's like the the prisoner. It's always breaking out in these, and she's so good. And then I watched a bunch of garbage for this podcast.
Yeah.
All right, let's do shout outs real quick, and then whatever.
Motorcycle.
Yeah, the fucking dirt bike guy next door that just likes to sit outside and rev his dirt bike while I'm trying to sleep.
I have a
Can you
dirt
blame
bike
him?
guy behind me that does that too.
Every
Not when I'm
every
sleeping,
Sunday
but it's
at
annoying.
noon while I'm trying to sleep for work, he'll just sit outside and rev it for like 3 hours, and I'm just like, cool. Anyway.
Isn't that a waste of gas?
Yeah,
Like,
I don't know. Not shout out to him.
Yeah, no. I don't even know.
Yeah, pick something quick, Katie. You're on the spot.
On the spot, as if I don't know. We do this every week. I just don't know.
I feel like all 3 of us, though, every time we're like, I don't know, this thing.
I always forget.
I'm going to shout out Doombox by Graf Orlock, because it's going to tie into our bonus episode.
Geez.
Graf Orlock forever.
Yeah, I watched so many live videos of them this week. Like, just full sets from, like, Hate 5-6 and shit on YouTube.
Yeah.
All right, Katie, now you're up. Say Orange Cassidy versus Sting.
Oh yeah, Orange Cassidy versus Sting. It is so good. It made Nathan break his phone.
Yeah, my fucking cracked phone now.
R.I.P.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, go Kit.
A new hovercraft album called I'm gonna butcher this because it's German. Schwebende Music. I don't know. It's like a super chill ambient stuff. It's just like 2 songs that are 20 minutes each. It's very relaxing.
Oh yeah.
I like.
I can't wait till the end of the year to see like my Spotify thing, because for about 8 hours a day I listen to like white noise while I'm sleeping. So like I can't wait to like see what my fucking Spotify looks like.
White noise playlist.
Yeah.
You listen to 1,000 hours.
You're in the top 0.5% of listeners for white noise.
I love it.
All right. Next week, surprise. We'll see.
Surprise again,
Yeah.
maybe.
You can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/IUpYourselfPodcast. We have a bonus episode coming out, I think, like a day after this comes out, something like that. No, this comes out...
No one could ever know.
No, a week from now. I don't know what fucking time it is. I don't know. August 1st, we have a bonus episode
matter.
coming out on Angela Bassett movies. So we did Boys in the Hood,
Sort of.
Green Lantern, and Mission Impossible Fallout. Pretty Kenan Thompson in Master of Disguise levels of Angela Bassett in these movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so subscribe to that. You can hear our bonus episodes and shit. Merch at our Teespring and Store Frontiers. You could just go look at our Instagram for those links. Leave us ratings and reviews. Tell us what day in the 30 Days a Night do you think it would take you to turn into a shark vampire?
Day
me,
0.5.
Yeah, pretty much
if
immediately.
they if well, okay, but this situation is really like they're not trying to keep you. So
Yeah, but they're
if
doing
they
a
were like,
fucking terrible job at it because they turned like 5 people in this movie.
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Follow us on Instagram at I Hope You Suffer Podcast. Follow Kit at Hidden Kitstery. Follow Katey at Werewolf Face. Go listen to my other podcast, Date Kate Movie Club. We did an episode on Deep Blue Sea because Caitlin had never seen it before. And we talk about Deepest Bluest for almost the whole episode.
Hell yeah.
The greatest song of all time. Featuring a line
Not
about
wrong.
how he ate all of your ancestors, so now the ocean is haunted. Which is endlessly fascinating to me. Alright. I hope you suffer, but I don't know, I got nothing. I don't remember what we talked about this episode.
too much.
Screech like a vampire.
I hope you suffer, but
Couch.
couch.
Yeah, but don't yell outside of Katie's window because she will not help you.